private investigators are experts at searching and finding information out. In this video, we're going to go over what private investigators do, the job market for private investigators, how much money private investigators tend to make, and at the end of the video, we will go over the top 5 metro areas for private investigators. Coming up. Hey everybody, my name is Stephen Hack, and this is CareerWatch, a YouTube channel bringing you the latest, most up-to-date statistics on different careers. Subscribe to this channel for weekly videos on job statistics, salary statistics, and other general career information to help you on your career search. Private investigators undertake investigatory law services. Private investigators are also known as private detectives, private eyes, and inquiry agents. They often work for attorneys in civil and criminal cases. Private investigators currently perform a wide variety of services. They perform background checks for companies trying to hire employees. They work for Fortune 500 companies, investigating employees for theft. Private investigators also conduct surveillance, help find missing people, collect evidence for clients, and more. Next, let's take a look at the job market for private investigators. About 35% of private investigators work for investigation, guard, and armored car services. 10% work for the finance and insurance industry. About 8% of private investigators work for the government. What's interesting is only 6% of private investigators are self-employed. I found this kind of surprising. I kind of would have thought that more private investigators would be self-employed. As a percentage, there are far more psychologists, optometrists, and dentists that are self-employed than private investigators. Next, let's take a look at the historical job growth of private investigators. In 1999, there were 30,690 jobs for private investigators. 20 years later, in 2018, there were 30,990 private investigator jobs. So there was a gain of about 300 jobs over a 20-year time period. And look at that volatility. The number of jobs has been going up and down over the past 20 years. In 2007, there were 37,410 jobs. Then the Great Recession hit and private investigators lost thousands of jobs over a 5-year time period. Private investigators have had a pretty volatile 20-year time period. Despite the volatility, the government is fairly optimistic about the future job growth of private investigators. The government is estimating an 8% growth in jobs for private investigators from 2018 to 2028. And this is above the average across all occupations, which is 5%. The idea is continued crimes, lawsuits, and fraud will continue to create greater demand for private investigators in the future. Oftentimes, online investigations aren't sufficient, and private investigators will be hired to perform background checks. Becoming a private investigator is fairly competitive. Many people from the military and law enforcement are attracted to this profession, especially after they retire. Typically, people with strong interviewing skills and computer skills will excel in this occupation. Next, let's take a look at what private investigators earn. In 1999, the average private investigator was making, on average, $30,120. By the year 2018, this average wage had risen to $56,810. So nationally, wages rose for private investigators by $26,690 over a period of 20 years. Finally, let's take a look at the top 5 metro areas for private investigators. The average wage for private investigators is around $57,000, but certain metro areas pay more than this. But also consider that this is a fairly competitive occupation. So it might be in a private investigator's best interest to live in a metro area that has a lot of jobs. So here are, in my opinion, the top 5 metro areas for private investigators. Number 5 is the Pittsburgh, Pennsylvania metro area. The average wage is lower than the national wage, but Pittsburgh is a pretty cheap place to live. Also, it's the third best metro area for number of jobs, so that's kind of the reason why it's on this list. The 4th best metro area for private investigators is the Las Vegas, Nevada metro area. There's 360 jobs, and the average wage is $65,070. Number 3 is the Chicago, Illinois metro area. There are 670 jobs, and the average Chicago wage is $62,690. Number 2 is the Washington, D.C. metro area. There's over 1,700 jobs, more jobs than any other metro area in the country, and the DC average wage is $68,930. And number 1 is the Los Angeles, California metro area. There's less jobs than DC, but in Los Angeles, the average wage is $78,650, which is the highest in the nation. So those are, in my opinion, the 5 best metro areas for private investigators. Washington, D.C., Los Angeles, and Chicago all have plenty of jobs and a pretty high local salary. Pittsburgh has a lot of jobs, but a very low cost of living. And Las Vegas has a pretty low cost of living and a pretty good wage. Are you interested in becoming a private investigator? Let me know in the comments below. Thank you so much for watching this video, and I will see you next time.